Well, Paul, thank you so much for joining me today.
Well, thank you, Arlena. Thanks for having me on and being a part of this.
Yeah, we're doing something new, so we'll just kind of lead from the heart and allow things to unfold. But I had put the call out for volunteers, people who are willing to come on and get a little coach. You're raising your hand. So get a little coaching and to maybe, process some things. I have this feeling that we're all kind of in the same boat. So you and I had a quick little chat to talk about what was going on, and I was like, "Oh my God, this is so up for me right now. I think we should jump on and record right now." So if you're watching YouTube, I am in my yoga clothes, no makeup on, so you're getting the unfiltered version.
Spain. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I know you did your hair today.
I did. Got that shiny thing there. That's
Yeah,
good.
yeah. Well, this will be fun. So let's talk a little bit about where you're at. You are 17 years in recovery. You went through NA, but tell me a little bit about what sort of led you to raise your hand and want to talk about what's going on today.
Yeah, total transparency, really. Like, I'm, I've put a book out. I have a book published, and I'm, doing all the things. It's a recovery memoir, and I'm doing all the things that I know to do or I'm learning to do to get the book into the hands of the people that it will help. And at the same time, I'm sort of flailing. Uh, some people have imposter syndrome. Sure, it's nice that people speak about that, and so I can be like, oh, I might end up with that. I don't know if I'll do another book. I don't know that I'm really truly an author. I just really wanted to share this story with people that it would help, um, and write it in a way that not just an addict would be like, oh, there's the mess, there's the message, but also somebody that's experiencing, like a parent who is struggling with addiction, substance abuse disorder. And I, I found myself being more sensitive than usual to feedback, uh,
Mhm.
to where like I want to run again. I want to escape. These are, ongoing ongoing these are ongoing feelings that they come and go. The whole writing process was up and down. Am I worthy? Am I not worthy? And I guess I thought, like, putting the book out, here we go. Like, I'm never gonna feel unworthy again. And it's probably a thought I had, like, this is it. I reached my goal. What do I do now? And, oh, there's all this, like, I'm I'm not a famous person. I've got to do all the hard work to get in front of people. I got in front of all my, friends and family time and time and time and time again. They're so probably sick of hearing about my book, or, and it's like, well, I need to get this to, people in recovery and their families and see if this will help. I think the story will help somebody, and that being on that hamster wheel of, like, you know, get it to bookstores, get it to on podcasts, uh, and one thing I just thought of, I have a song called One Day at a Time, by the way. Maybe,
Really? Oh my
yeah,
God. You'll have
yeah,
to share, you'll have to share a link with me. I'll put it in the show
yeah, I
notes.
will, I will. The end of the song might be good for the show. Anyway, uh, and I came across your podcast, and and I'm looking at how it can help. And there are certain podcasts where, if you're not famous, you've got to dial in a special language to, like, get their attention, of the producers or the person running the podcast. And I came across yours, and um, we spoke about doing this guinea pig thing, and it's like, as much as I want people to have the book, I'm not a sales giant. I'm not even a, it's not in the whole recovery message. It's attraction, not promotion, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
believe that. I take that to heart. You know, the programs of recovery changed and saved my life, and I'm grateful and I honor that. You know, and it's like I can't be that person getting in front of everybody. Buy the book, buy the book, buy the book. I, uh, and maybe that's something holding me back. Also, I don't know.
Mm.
But I, you know, and I just like, yeah, I'm totally willing to learn from you what, why, maybe why I
Mm-hmm.
keep feeling like I'm not worthy, and it keeps coming up. So I believe that's my higher power saying, here's where you need, here's where you need to work. Like, I am so familiar with self sabotage, and yet I don't even know when I'm doing it still sometimes, you know, and
Yeah.
you know, I'm very blessed to have been remarried. I was a sole custodial dad for about 10 years, and then I was remarried. And my wife, she's in Al-Anon. She you know went into Al-Anon, and so we have these like great discussions where it's like we're helping each other understand some of the things that we repeat, and
Mm. Repeating
yeah,
patterns. Yeah.
yeah, and how they disguise themselves, you know, to where I have no idea, you know, I'm doing this. She's like, you're doing that behavior, you know, and it's like,
Yeah.
shut up. I mean, don't tell me, you know, I mean, but it's
Man,
really
I
thank you.
swear to God, when two people are in recovery, discussions and arguments can be very like they're weird because you have so much like recovery knowledge, but at the same time, like when you're triggered and emotional, it makes the
Yeah, it's like a
conversation
different
weird.
person. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And I honestly, and I'm trying to remember what I was reading, but it was something, well, okay, it was something that said, you know, write I am worthy and put it in front of you.
Hmm.
And it's like, man, man, I've done those things so many times, you know, I've done that work. And like a voice, and it wasn't my voice, was just like, just do it, you know, just do that. And,
Yeah.
and it's like, okay, taking the action, the actual action towards, you know, freedom. And you and I talked a little earlier. It's like my early recovery, like I was broken, and that was the only way I was willing to surrender. Um, I mean, there was the my my then wife, my daughter's mom, had kidnapped our daughter, like left with her and disappeared and didn't tell me. Now that was an impetus also, but I still could have went back out after so long. I mean, I ended up with sole custody of her because her mother's an addict also that still hasn't found sobriety.
Mm.
I ended up with sole custody within my first year clean. That's what the book that I wrote was about. That first year of losing my daughter and then having the system be very challenging for a male parent.
Hmm. Oh,
You'd get
yeah.
her back, but then my daughter being harmed on her mom's watch was the only way.
Oh my God.
You know, they finally said, okay, yeah, we're giving him emergency sole custody. Um, but that could have been my like, all right, I got it. You know, I got her back. I got my kid back. Party's
Goal
on.
achieved.
Yeah, right. Goal achieved. But I knew. I mean, I was not young. I was 44 when I got clean.
Yeah,
And I just knew like I'm so broken and I need something. I need to just like shut this guy off and
right.
absorb. You know, and
Yeah.
I truly believe right now I need to find that same willingness.
Mm. Yeah. When we talked earlier, it really struck a chord with me to the point like I've never done this before where I said, "Hey, let's do a little pre-interview chat." And then during the call, I was like, "Oh my God, what are you doing right now? We need to
Yeah,
talk about this right now." Because you were talking about, not feeling worthy. And I was like, I recognize I'm talking to somebody who's 17 years in recovery. Right? That is a deep-seated, very difficult belief to overcome, right? And you mentioned to me you were thinking you struggling with the idea of like what is God's will? How do I know what God's will is? And I think it really struck me so hard because I really believe that if we solve the worthiness problem, that is the problem that solves all the other problems. It's really, what Gay Hendricks is someone who wrote a book about the upper limit problem. It's like we only allow into our lives what we believe we deserve on that subconscious level. And it's like
Ouch.
I know, I know.
No.
And
And it,
the shortcut answer is that the work is to continually do the practice of self-esteem building exercises, because in our brains we have something called the default mode network. It's like our brains are wired in a certain way. We're sort of hardwired, right? Through our
yeah.
development of childhood, through experiences, we're sort of hardwired. And so there never is sort of this arrival place, right? Like we hear that, like, oh, there is no arrival, life is a classroom.
Yeah.
We learn but
Mm.
it doesn't our brains don't really work that way. Like you gave the example of, oh, as soon as I get my daughter back, then I'll be happy. We have these conditions like of when, if and when statements, if this thing or when this happens, then I will be happy. It's a if then statement.
Mm.
But what that doesn't take into account is our level of self-esteem or self-worth. Like, what do you believe you really deserve? Right. And in my mind, what really blocks that receiving is guilt. We still carry guilt and shame on some level. And we might not be consciously aware of it, but it shows up, it presents itself in ways like, not it's like, should I promote my book? Am I worthy? I don't want to sell this. I don't want to come off like this gross salesy person being
Yeah.
like, right? Like everyone
Yeah.
has that. I spent 10 years in sales, so I know what it feels like. I have no shame about
Yeah.
selling anymore.
Yeah. I mean, I was in sales also, which
It's different when you're selling yourself as
it
opposed
really
to what kind of sales did you do?
plumbing supplies.
Okay. Yeah, so it was impersonal, right?
Yeah, not at all. Yeah.
It had
Yeah.
nothing to do with you personally.
Yeah. It actually helped, like, part of my upselling, which is what they called it, and I thought that was the wrong word for it, is like a plumber would come in and say, I need these things. And it's like, well, if you're doing this job, because I had to learn about plumbing,
Sure.
if you're doing this job, don't you need, this glue? Oh, yeah, glue. Thank you. So
Yes.
that was,
Thank you.
yeah,
Thank
yeah,
you is the experience someone has when you help them,
yeah.
right? And so really that's what you were doing is you're helping somebody. I don't know if you froze. Am I frozen?
Right, yeah.
Damn, internet is freezing on
You're
me a
not
little
frozen.
bit. Okay, good.
Um,
But anyway,
my
my
bad.
point was
Okay.
is that we are what we're when we are in touch with our true motives, like I am very clear that your motive is to help.
Yeah,
Yeah. You know what it was like to have an experience where there was a parent who was unsafe, um, and you were afraid for your child, and I'm sure you learned a lot of things about yourself and others in the system, especially as a father.
yeah,
It's my I've never been through the court system, but it's my understanding that the courts tend to favor the mothers. Is that true?
yeah. That's true.
It is true. Okay.
Yeah.
Um,
In I mean,
I don't
it's
really know anything about it, but you
yeah,
tell me.
it's case by case. Uh, I was living in Oregon at the time, and I mean, Oregon, at least statistically, is a lot more equal than most states. But even with that, I was still unable to convince a judge. I'd gone in front of a judge a couple times, saying, I know she's still running around old people. I've gotten clean and sober, and the mom hasn't. And our daughter keeps telling us or is telling me stories of who mom's running around with, and I know those are drug dealers, and I'm just concerned for her welfare. And the judge was just actually screamed at me, saying, can you prove it? And I was like, well, I work full time. I don't, I don't know how I would prove it. I'm not going to stalk her and or hire a private,
Yeah.
and
What forms of proof are
yeah,
acceptable?
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be
So
really hard. I would imagine that was a self-esteem, reduced your self-esteem, that experience.
you know, to and I do mention this in the book. It felt familiar. Like,
Mm,
it's a paragraph. A lot of people, not a lot of people, but some people like, I don't understand that, and it's like that felt right. Like, please tell me no, because that's what I'm used to. Like, that'll make this all okay for me. And then
yeah,
you're like, no, no, this isn't about me and my own insecurity. This is about saving my child, protecting my daughter. And so I was able to flip that script in that situation. And I would imagine a lot of parents have that same problem when it comes to custody and knowing one parent is unsafe, and feeling like, oh, I don't want to pursue this, but I did. I kept going. I kept pursuing it, and I I I had to actually talk um, my daughter's maternal grandparents, so her mom's parents,
mm,
into reporting her because they were
mm,
calling me complaining, oh my God, she's coming over here on her night to be with Lola. She's getting here at 10:30 and she's out of her mind. And I'm like, well, you guys could do something about that. That would really help me,
right, right.
and but it took a call from them, and the judge has to report. So the judge, put the case in front of Child Protective Services and
Right.
finally sent a worker. But they were all investigating me, like, looking at my house, like, have you looked at her house and or where she's staying at, the couch she's at, or whatever. Anyway, yeah. So they put me through more, and yeah, I was on board and pretty much stubbornly, but gratefully didn't give up. But
Yeah, yeah.
I know a lot of parents, especially men, do. They just feel like they can't win this, and or I mean, maybe because they look at it winning. It's about the kid.
Yeah, I mean, so I kind of feel like there are two things sort of present in this conversation. One is your level of self-esteem, and then the other is like the dynamics of how it played out in, I mean, it feels like the whole parenting struggle that you went through, the story of the book is sort of a reflection of how you feel about yourself. There's this idea that the outside world is evidence of how you feel about yourself, how you truly feel, your subconscious beliefs, right? There's this idea that we are subconsciously attracting to us situations that feel familiar from our childhood. And it's almost as if we create our childhood environment in our adult lives with sort of the ideas that so that as adults we can solve that problem for the inner child. Right.
Mm,
And it's just interesting that you said it felt familiar. So so in terms of your self-esteem, it sounds like that whole experience was an affront to, your value as a father, as a person. Is that fair?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. And so there are some things that we can do to sort of bolster that sense of self-esteem so that we can I feel like the work my like this felt so up for me because I am in this process of sort of relinquishing the old, in the book how we talk about the old ideas, like the result was nil until we let go. Absolutely, right? Some of us tried to hold on to our old ideas, and I thought, well, what are old ideas? Old ideas are around thinking that we have to earn and work and struggle and strive in order to receive.
yes.
Right. And you mentioned that you had this awareness that you're working so hard, like you're on this hamster wheel. Can you tell me about what that looks like for you? What are you doing that makes you feel that way?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, everything, and then some. I was looking around for. I have a task thing
A
sheet.
to-do list? Oh,
A to-do
you mean like this?
list. Yes.
to do.
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah, to-do
I
lists.
was at there's an organization I belong to, nonfiction writers, authors association, and um, I was expressing to the group. It was like a brainstorming group. It's like it's every when it comes to a book, and you'll find this out. There's rabbit holes. I mean, there's so many rabbit holes on the internet. All I want to do is get it in front of people. Uh, it's not that easy. Who to get in front of. I only have so many hours to the day. I have a life outside. I have a family, a marriage. And oh my gosh, so I'll write down the stuff I want to get to, and I was expressing that with this group, and I just said I don't know where to go first sometimes, and
Mm,
I held up my list of stuff to do, and the woman Stephanie that runs the um, the association, she said, "Please put that down. I think that just made me sick to my stomach." And I was like, "Oh no, what am I doing?" So yeah, as as an author, there's this many things that I want to do. Bookstores, speaking engagements. I haven't even started down that path. Um,
mhm,
and podcasts, obviously,
mhm.
um, and then uh, the social media aspect. I'm all over Facebook and Instagram. Those are things I do all the time.
Man, talk about a rabbit hole.
There's rabbit holes, yeah,
Hmm.
and then I mentioned when we were talking earlier. I talked about I as I was waiting for the book to be finished, I became certified as a sound healer. I grew up as a musician. Um, I played music for a living for many years. It was part of where a lot of the mess occurred. That enabling world, of being a musician and getting all that attention on you, and you know, take this, take that, and I mean, I became a hack after a while, and um, but when I was raising my daughter full time by myself, uh, there was no time for music. I was working full time. I was full on single parent mode, uh, meetings all the time, and that was it. Parenting, recovery, or recovery, parenting, working, and the music took a back seat. Uh, and then now the kids. So I got remarried, two step kids. We met through our daughters. All three kids are type 1 diabetes. So our daughters met and they were like reflections of each other. They met when they were about 12 or 13. And so we blended this family. And so there was definitely no time then. I would occasionally do a show here and there. Uh, and what kind of brought me back was I came from Las Vegas. I was in some punk bands in the 80s, and they opened a punk rock museum there a little over a year ago. And they were so gracious, they gave a wall to the local scene. That we had a great local scene in Las Vegas in the 80s. And so
Mhm.
one of my guitars is hanging in the punk rock museum.
Oh, wow.
Come down and do like a show, and I was just like, how can I give like punk rock? I don't know if that's like a good avenue for people in recovery, and it probably is. I know there's sober bands for sure. There always have been.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, but I I found my way um, to sound healing music, like instrumental,
Mm,
uh, and through doing research, there's a frequency 528 hertz
hmm.
that is soothing, like the science-based knowledge has found what I think I always knew, but I didn't know 528 hertz was a specific frequency that for people going through withdrawals, the anxiety, it helps calm that. So it's a specific frequency. And so I've written an entire set of music, an entire session of music around these frequencies, but it takes a lot of time. It's a lot of recording and doing loops and layers, and I started doing this music with a yoga instructor and got a lot of really
Nice.
good feedback with that. and now I'm branching off to do this just by myself as a session. Um, One of the first ones I'm going to do is at Camp Soberfest. I don't know if you've heard of that, but
Mm-mm.
it's in California in August, and so I'm actually like kind of kicking off the 3 day event with a
Nice.
meditative sound. I know it's like such an honor. Like, okay, I'm doing this and I'm giving back, you know.
So
But
do you feel like when you talk about that, like I'm just watching you and your whole energy changed, you shifted and like is that what lights you up? Is that what brings you joy?
definitely, I mean, I'm in my 60s. I'm getting to be creative again, you know,
Yeah.
get in front of people and knowing like I'm giving back. This is a way of giving back.
Yeah.
You know, this is
Yeah.
going to be for like, a sober sound healing.
Beautiful. I love it. Can I just share something with you?
Oh, I don't know,
Well, brace yourself because I'm
please,
going
please.
to.
Okay. Thank you.
So I have been working with Julia Cameron's book called The Artist's Way. And as I'm listening to
Okay.
you, I consider myself a creative as well.
Yeah.
And when we are when you're a creative, it's hard to distill all of the ideas that come in and follow one, right? Like
Yes.
you're an author, you're a musician, I would argue you're a healer. Maybe that's the overarching, like your identity is emerging in this way that has many facets,
Yeah.
right? And so I just want to highlight that you have enormous potential and, in Julia Cameron's book, she has this list of affirmations, and I've been using a different one every day. I use something called a 5 minute journal, and it's three things you're grateful for, three things that would make the day great, and an affirmation. And I've been sort of reading this list of affirmations that she has in this book. And I just keep getting the message over and over again that like our purpose is really to allow ourselves to be creative. And I'm just going to read you some of the affirmations and let me know if these resonate with you. But I am a channel for God's creativity and my work comes to good. My dreams come from God and God has the power to accomplish them. As I create and listen, I will be led. Creativity is the creator's will for me. And I'm allowed to nurture my art. So it goes on and on, but those are like my favorite. The first few are my favorite ones. But
Yeah.
really, that's what the idea speaks to. Um, that when you talk about what is God's will, you mentioned that earlier. What is God's will for me? It's it's about tuning in and allowing ourselves to follow the joy, which takes a tremendous amount of courage
Okay.
because we have to let go of our old ideas. The result is nil until we let go absolutely. And what we're letting go of is possibly expectations that we have of ourselves, of what we feel like we should be doing.
Yeah. And the very first one you read, um, the end of it, my work comes to good. Is that how it ended?
Yeah, I am a
Yeah.
channel. I'm a channel for God's creativity, and my work comes to good.
And so the expectation part, like
Yeah.
my expectation of my work coming to good is I become world famous, crazy wealthy, like that.
Okay,
That's
let's follow that for a
okay.
second
Yeah, I
because let
don't
me
know that
just
one.
ask you, let's just take a famous and rich because those are kind of both, rich and famous.
Yeah,
So so let's say, there's this idea that as you ask, you shall receive. As you ask, it's given. So let's say in an alter reality, wish granted, you're famous. What are the feelings that you would like to feel when you are famous? You are famous. I wave my magic wand. How do you feel in this moment?
Man, okay. Uh,
And just drop into your heart. Try not to be in your head, but how does
yeah,
it
okay.
feel? How does it feel?
I mean, the first thing that really came to mind was like accomplishment.
Accomplished. Okay.
You know,
And how does accomplished feel? What does accomplished bring you?
oh man. I was gonna say not necessarily satisfied. Um, and I was like, oh, should I say that? Because that doesn't
I
sound
mean,
like anything.
satisfied is a very like accomplished. It's like I work really hard and I achieve this goal and then I did it.
Yeah. But not satisfied. That's so I'm already in conflict on this. Like
Well,
allowing so
accomplished doesn't mean that you stop creating.
yeah, yeah, okay. I mean, I get
Like you
that.
can continue, you get to continue to create from a place of joy. But let's go back to famous.
Can I real quick before
Oh,
you
sure, sure.
uh you said something earlier that said sorry, you said something earlier about the outside world influencing my inside,
Well, it's a reflection.
a reflection. And I mean that resonated with me because like I said, like I'm a sensitive person, and when I say accomplished, I mean for, your eyes out there, but it's not for in here.
So that's external validation.
It's external validation.
Yeah. And when we seek fame, the only reason to seek fame is because inside we don't feel validated. We don't feel enough. The need for external approval is a reflection of a lack of internal approval.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. No. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't
And
know if I was
so
ready for this, Arlena. No.
I know, but this is so
But it's
important
so
because we
true.
are all the same. I do
Yeah.
it too. Do you want to know? I'll
Yeah.
just to
No,
make you
yes.
feel a little better.
I'm,
The way it shows up for me is I was struggling and striving to try to grow a following on social media. The
okay.
thinking is, oh, if I can present enough value, then people will follow me and I'll grow an audience. And then I can ask bigger guests to come on the podcast. Like that's kind
Yeah.
of how it works. I have these people that I would love to have as guests on the podcast, but the first thing they do is look at social media.
Look at
And
reviews. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, because I understand, they need to use there are these people that are in demand. And so they need to know that they're spending their time wisely on platforms that'll reach the most people. So but if I go up a level, I recognize that in my mind, the lack of followers is a reflection of my own lack of self-validation.
Okay. I, I get
It's
that.
chasing a following. They say whatever you chase runs, right? And so what's underneath, isn't that
All
funny?
right. All right. I like
It's
that.
about
I
that.
do
It's
like that. Yeah.
attraction, not promotion,
Yeah.
right?
Okay. Yes.
So, what's under all that is this need. And whenever there is a feeling of need, that is the vibration that we're carrying. That is the subconscious message is that is of lack. Need is a reflection of lack. So,
Okay.
the solution really is to like I love all the Abraham Hicks audios, people that teach law of attraction, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's whatever you let when we let go of our judgments, of our self-condemnation, of our old ideas, when we let go of what's already we know is not working, right? Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different, that's insanity, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so we come to this place of surrender, and surrender seems to have such powerful energy because we relax and allow, right? That's when the grace can come in. It's like we don't, and the message of God is of love, right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
you. like the love that you have for your child, she doesn't need to do anything to earn your love. She has it,
Yeah.
right? And so I feel like that is sort of I love that parent-child dynamic of God and us, is that God
Yeah.
just wants to bless us, but we have to allow it. We have to let go of these ideas that we have to struggle or earn in
Right.
order to receive.
Okay.
Right. And so a lot of the work that we need to do, what clears the channel for receiving is self-forgiveness, self-validation. And so
Okay.
that is the work. And it's not like this work that we do of improving our self-esteem, or really, it's really a realization that we're worthy of receiving. That is the work, is just realizing it, that all of our self-judgment or self-condemnation is just an illusion, because God actually loves us. That's the whole point of God, is that it's grace and that love is just given. And so all our work is to receive it. And so there is never really a time where we just arrive. Like, it's a practice. It's something we do every day. It's like you wouldn't go to the gym once and expect to stay in shape forever, right? Like, that doesn't make any sense. You wouldn't
Right.
expect to eat a salad and once and be healthy. It's a practice. And so what we're fighting against is this default mode network, this set of beliefs, subconscious beliefs that we have. And so that is really the work, is raising the level of our self-esteem, this sense of worthiness, so that we can just simply allow it to happen. It's like when you're whole and you have everything, if you could sit with this idea that you already have everything, all the validation, like rich and famous is typically, accomplished, satisfied, right? I didn't even ask you what rich would bring you. But those are the feelings that we're striving for. If we just spend a little time every day allowing ourselves to feel it as if it's already happened, that's what attracts the very thing that we want. And let me ask you that now. It's like, let's say I can wave the magic wand, you have $100 million. I like to go big.
Yeah. No, that's good.
Like what would it feel like? Like, what would you allow yourself to receive if you had everything, access to planes, yachts? Like, like, you're there, like, what is the feeling?
uh, I'm trying not to be cheeky. Like the first thing that came to my head was, man, I can't wait to be, or I'd rather be where I am now. Does that make any sense?
What do you mean?
Like, God,
Like, you don't want to be on a yacht?
no, okay. I'd like to be on one if I wanted to, but I, it, maybe
I'm just
I'm,
projecting. That's my own
yeah,
bullshit.
no, maybe I'm confusing. Yeah, maybe I'm confusing the universe with what I want. Um, like
Because you want multiple things?
multiple things. There are certain. Oh my gosh, I could go into this. Like, like I don't want to be a rich person because I see rich person people as a certain type of person that I don't like.
That's so you have conflicting ideas about what it is like to be somebody. You have judgments towards people who are rich. So you couldn't allow yourself to be rich, because then you would be going against your own values.
Exactly. So
That's a
being,
conflict.
yeah, there's a conflict here. Like kind of as a entertainment joke. My wife and I, we've been playing the lottery lately. You know, it's
My
like,
God, you're like my soul twin.
is that right? I
Yeah, we
love it.
just started we just for fun, just because
Yeah,
I mean, $3 lets
exactly.
you pretend.
Right. I'm putting in the action. And but the main reason that I want to have that wealth is I want to be able to promote my book and my music like like crazy, like people with wealth get to do.
Yeah.
It's not to, I mean, I'd like to see the world. I'd like to travel the world, and to be able to do it, uh, without like my wife and I, we went on a cruise. First time either one of us had done it, had gone on a cruise, and like, oh my God, that is so. We went to Alaska, and it's like
Mm,
so beautiful. And wouldn't it be great to be able to do this all the time? I mean, it set us back financially, and so those kind of things, to be able to do those kind of things. But I don't want the lifestyle. It's really to not worry about finances when I
right.
say that.
So let's do a little exercise. It's like the five whys exercise. So you are able to promote your book and music the way you want to.
Yeah,
And um, why is that important? Because it will.
it will help people. I've my purpose for being a songwriter, for like I spent, um maybe I'll back up a little bit. My dad passed away in 2019, which left me a little cushion to stop working. And in that time, I worked on the book. And
Mm,
uh, I I have this back catalog of all these recordings that I did over the years. And I was and Spotify's out now, and iTunes, and it's like, why have I, people were, hey, whatever happened to that one song you wrote, and things like that. I mean, I had airplay on tons of radio stations. I traveled the country selling CDs out of my van, or my truck or whatever. And and it's like, yeah, let me get that music to people. It's kind of like Tom Petty Americana style.
oh
Like I
yeah.
said, there were punk bands too, there were psychedelic bands. um, and so I uploaded all this catalog. And I'm looking, you know 11 followers. It's like,
So defeating. Yeah.
it's defeating. Less than 1,000 plays. And then Spotify just did this new rule where it's like, if you have less than 1,000 plays, we're not even going to give those artists any money. You have to have more than 1,000 to get paid. And it's like, I have 30 years of music on here. I don't know how many plays they've got. Are they all at 990? And
Yeah.
it's pennies. There's no like financial return. I don't even have enough financial return to like promote it more. And then, um,
Let me
Spotify.
I'm
Oh,
sorry. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I want to bring you back to the why exercise because I
yeah.
want to sort of let's get to the core of what your real like what is the underlying motivation because I think that'll be helpful in leading us to a place of like on a path to building self-esteem where you can receive. But okay, so promote your book and music will help people. And what's important about helping people?
uh, it To me, it validates my work.
Yeah. And
So
and
it's
yeah,
not self-serving. Like, hey, I wrote a book, so I'd be an author. That's not why I wrote a book. Like, I
yeah,
didn't spend
to
five
help
years
others.
to promote my own ego. It's like,
Yeah.
and I make music because music has always made me feel good. I think music saved my life.
Yeah, it's a creative act. That's sort of
Yeah,
God's that's the message I'm getting is that it's
yeah.
creativity is God's work.
Yeah.
So let's say that your work is validated. And why is that important?
That's a good question. Okay, all right. So that would come back to my feeling of worthiness.
Yeah.
Like, uh, that was what I was told I wasn't as a kid. You know,
Okay.
that
Yeah.
was, definitely my dad and my mom. Um, that's what I grew up with, like not being good enough.
So you've been put on this path of proving your worth.
Yeah,
And if you can help enough people, then you'll be worthy.
yeah,
Yeah.
sounds right.
And
I've
yeah,
never
and not seeing the numbers is reinforcing this idea that you are not worthy. Is that fair?
that I'm not working hard enough to be worthy.
Yeah. Yeah, it goes back to the struggling and striving to be worthy. And so that's what I would consider some of the old ideas that I have to struggle and strive and prove myself because what if they were right? You know, what if they're right? What if I'm not worthy? So I have to earn my way into it. And so, but like you said, you have these ideas and judgments about people who are, you didn't say anything about famous people, but rich people, and so now we're in this, conflicting place where this is what you want. You need to feel worthy. But if you are worthy and attract this thing, then you are no longer in alignment with your values. It's this internal conflict. So that's the nature of self sabotage.
Just going to say that. I mean, is that the thing that I'm becoming aware of is like, there's my self sabotager again,
Yeah.
hiding in the bushes,
Yeah.
like, but that is really a lifelong thing for me. Is like, I was always like an underground guitar player. I had the talent
Mm,
to be on any stage anywhere, uh, and something that's really like humbling me. Like, I have this part-time job. I work at an amphitheater as an usher. So I'm seeing all these bands, on the big stage I always felt worthy of being on. And it's like, what did they do that's so different? Is it like being at a higher frequency, or, I mean,
yeah.
so in a way it's troubling because I don't know how to get out of this mindset of
Yeah.
that conflict.
Yeah. So let's do a little exercise. I don't know if you're familiar with internal family systems, but it's this idea that you have different parts in you. We've identified a self-sabotager. We've identified a creative helper, right? So you have these two parts that seem to be polarized against each other. And so I don't want you to think of the answer. I just want you to let's think about the saboteur. When you think about this part that self-sabotages you, if you just do a scan of your body, where are you feeling it in your body?
Up here, like
Okay.
to the shoulders.
Yeah. Okay. So you're feeling it in your body and your shoulders, and just sort of without intellectualizing it, just sort of impulsively, how do you feel towards that part?
Just how do I feel towards that part?
Yeah. The saboteur, how do you feel towards that part?
I I feel like, so I feel the tension.
Uh-huh.
And um
Do you like it? Do you want to get rid of it? Do you feel
get
sorry
rid of
for it?
it. Yeah. I feel like, see if I can go to the right place here. Like, I know I'm not relaxed. Like, I
Yeah.
know I'm tensing up. Um, I so I acknowledge that. Like, I have enough mindfulness to know, okay, like this discussion, I'm getting tense now.
Hmm. And you feel
And
it in your shoulders.
yeah, and I feel it in my shoulders, and it's like, okay, let me try let me try to to get calm again.
Well, let's before we get calm again, I'm curious about how you feel towards, like, if that's something that you want to get rid of.
It is because I feel like it's
Okay.
revealing something in me. Like, I feel like I feel like I'm hiding something.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that part that is sort of judging it as it's hiding something or you want to get rid of it, that's what we would call a protective part. There's a part that's like, I don't want this, right?
Okay. Yeah.
And so let's just ask, just in your mind, you can ask that part to step back and let us maybe talk to the part that feels tense.
That's the other thing. It feels like blocking. There's some blocking happening.
Yeah.
Okay.
So ask if it would be okay if you ask that protector part to just step aside so that we can talk to it and resolve it. Would that be okay?
Yeah. Yeah. I realized, like, doing this as a podcast is like I didn't expect, and so
Yeah,
yeah, allow me to do that.
sure. Yeah.
I want this.
Yeah. So let's just if that part is willing to step back, just let's just thank it. Thank you for be willing to. let us talk to the tense part that maybe is sabotaging you, and that we're going to take good care of all the parts. And can you get a sense of space?
Yeah, yeah.
And how do you feel towards that sabotaging part now?
Um, just aware of it.
Awareness, good. Maybe a little. So let's just, in your mind, ask that part, what does it want you to know about what it feels like to have to carry that stress and that tension?
Whew. Um, that it's scared.
It's scared. Yeah. And just get a little curious. And so that part feels scared. What is it scared of?
Um, I mean, intellectually, I want to say change,
Yeah,
but feeling wise, it's protective. Like it's,
sure.
it wants to protect me from something, I guess.
Yeah, it wants to protect you. And that's a very noble endeavor that it's really on your side. It's really been trying to help you all this time. And that it's scared. And can you ask it, like, how hard has it been to be carrying this burden this whole time? You just breathe, take a deep breath, and how hard has it been?
Enormous.
Yeah. What does it want you to know about how hard it's been?
Uh, that it. uh, okay. Because okay, I just
Is this a job? Let's ask a simple question. Is this a job that it likes?
and I think yes is what I'm hearing.
It says yes, it is a job that it likes
Like it
because
feels necessary,
it feels necessary.
and I believe I know why, and that's because the protective thing. It's because I'm so sensitive. I'm so sensitive. I mean, and
Yeah.
that's the thing I was always told. You're too sensitive. Like I don't handle things well.
Mm,
I mean, I recently learned about myself because I have anger issues, and
hmm.
is I can't speak to somebody rationally when I'm mad, and I just found
Hmm.
out it's because I get flooded, and
Yeah.
flooding is like this loss of control, and I like with these questions that you're asking, it's reminding me, hey, I'm necessary because you get out of control, and so I'm
Ah.
protecting you from that.
Mm. Oh, it's protecting you in so many ways.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so what is coming up is I'm recognizing that there's another part that we need to talk to in a moment, this sensitive part. And we'll just acknowledge that part that feels sensitive and gets quick to anger. And we'll just ask that part to, we acknowledge it and validate and appreciate it. We're going to ask it to just maybe step aside for a moment.
Okay.
Okay. And when we talk to the sabotaging part, it feels like its job is necessary. But let's ask the part if it knows how old you are. Let's maybe introduce let's maybe we need a little introduction to this part. Let's just ask it. It's like, does it know how old you are?
Yeah, and it's laughing. you know, uh, why do you ask that? That's
Yeah. Just tell, well, you don't have to tell me. You can just
no, I
ask.
mean, I'm not afraid of being transparent. I'm just
Yeah, yeah.
so I'm asking. the self-sabotager how old it is, or
No,
is it,
you're asking the self-sabotager if it knows how old you are.
oh, okay,
Yeah, the self that you are today.
okay.
Yeah. What does it say? Does it know how old you are?
It doesn't.
So let's do a little introduction. Let's tell this self-sabotaging part. Let's let them know how old you are, the wisdom that you have. Let them know that you've been sober a long time. You've clearly done a lot of work on yourself. You're very self-aware. So just, maybe silently to yourself, just let that part know who you are and that you have lots of skills and abilities today. Yeah. What does it say? Is it surprised?
And you're just listening.
Good.
Like it doesn't want to know that, but it's listening.
Okay. And maybe we take a moment to ask the self-sabotaging part, how old is that part?
20s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we just need to acknowledge that 20-year-old part of you that maybe started self-sabotaging in order to protect you. And what does that 20-year-old need you to know about how hard things have been for him?
All I'm hearing is is it's almost like it's blaming me, if that makes
Yeah, it must be mad.
yeah, yeah. Like,
He's angry.
yeah, how did you let this happen is what I was hearing in my head.
How did you let this happen? Yeah. And do you get a sense of how far away or how close he is to you? Is he feet away? Is he across the room?
Well, like within, like
Yeah.
yeah, not far, like
Yeah.
yeah, close.
Just let him know that you hear his anger. Let's validate his feelings. It's like, yeah, of course you're pissed. Of course. Yeah. Let's just validate his feelings. He's 20 years old. He's a child. He's really angry. Yeah. And maybe let him know how sorry you are that he felt that way. Is he able to receive any of that? Yeah. And let's just ask him if he would like to let go of all the anger. If he really does, he feel like you understand his pain?
Yeah,
Yeah.
he wants to hear more of that.
Yeah. He needs your validation.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, definitely.
Yeah. And can you just let him know how much he is loved?
Okay.
Yeah. and that he no longer has to struggle in order to receive that love, that he is perfect exactly the way he is. And these burdens that he's been carrying are no longer his, that you're going to take care of things from now on. And how does he feel about that?
There's, like, there's no tension in my shoulders right now, first of
Good.
all.
Nice.
Um, I think just not just happy to be acknowledged.
Mhm.
You know, um, it's like I've always thought of my self sabotager as my enemy.
Of course.
I think
Yeah.
I'm loving my enemy. I know I've
Yeah.
got to and I've done it and it helps heal, but I never thought
Yeah.
of it to myself.
Yeah. This whole time he was trying to protect you because he
Yeah.
felt like you weren't going to do it. Yeah. And where do you, is he? So, what we'd like to do is bring him to a place where he feels safe.
Okay.
But first, before he leaves the place where he's at, let's ask him if he would like to, what would he like to do with these, negative feelings of anger, of burden? Does he want to give them up to fire, water, air? How would he like to release those burdens?
Air is what I hear.
Okay, yeah. So we will just, maybe you can visualize your open palms. Maybe he can just, palms to the air, just allow it to evaporate, give it to God, whatever way he feels good in releasing it. And just let me know when that's done. Good. So now we're going to bring him home. We're going to bring him home to a place where he feels safe, where he's loved and validated, and that he doesn't have to, he's no longer in charge. He doesn't have to protect you because now he knows you're a grown man and that you're capable of taking care of things. And so just visualize him going to a safe place, whether it's in your house or in your heart, just somewhere safe that he can go and rest.
He, he's questioning where a safe place is.
Do you have a safe place in your home,
I don't know.
in your music room, in a made up place?
I'm looking at a made up place.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just let him know that he can be safe in this place that you think he'll be comfortable in. And what would he like to do? Does he want to just chill out, play video games, play music?
He wants to chill out, but keep an eye open is
He's on guard a little bit.
guard
He's
still. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's going to learn to trust you over time,
Yeah.
and this is a new relationship that you can come back to and visit
Yeah.
whenever you start to feel the tension. That'll be your sign that as you scan your body that he maybe has moved back into a protector role. And so we just whenever that happens, we can just validate his feelings and reassure him and that you are the higher self and that you got this and that you will protect him and all your sensitive parts. Yeah, good. So just take Oh, cleansing breath. I know that was a lot.
Yeah, that was
And
good.
that's yeah, so there, the sensitive parts that we have are also you can do this process with that part too and recognize that the sensitive parts that we have are typically gifts that we don't know how to use, right? Um,
Okay.
yeah, and it doesn't surprise you're a creative, you're a musician, you're a healer, you're a writer. So your sensitive part is actually there to serve you. And it does require you as the self to be protective of that part. Right. And so anger is the sign that it's easier to feel anger than it is to feel hurt.
Yeah.
And so when we feel hurt, it's important to, take a moment to, when things calm down, to sort of do that inner retrieval part with the sensitive parts of you too. Because anger is a secondary emotion. Yeah. And listen, anger is one of those things that is also like a protector, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure.
But yeah, when it's interesting that when our nervous system is inflamed or triggered and anger is activated, your amygdala actually takes over your central nervous system and you physically cannot respond. You don't have access to the rational parts of your brain. That's just how the brain works. You're not unique that way. And
Yeah.
so we need to bring a little self-compassion to ourselves in those moments.
Yeah. I'm yeah, yeah, and I've been learning this uh and growing, and my relationships with people have improved. I still have inanimate object issues.
What does that mean?
Well, no. It's where uh and maybe it's just a an out for me to still get flooded with anger, because there's a high to that. There's an endorphin rush to that,
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And like just yesterday, like I was doing some physical work in my the garage part of my music shop. This is in a detached garage, this structure I built, and and I was cleaning it up, and twice I tripped over a saw, an electric saw, or yeah. Anyway,
I think I know where you're going with this.
yeah. So I kicked it, and then it put a hole in the new wall that I did, like, and it's like I don't give a fuck about anything, Like
Yeah.
that's where I'm at. Like that is really, you know, not thinking, you know,
Hmm.
and I mean, there was so often I was like that when I was using. Like I was always just a like I don't care, I don't care, I don't care, I don't care.
Hmm.
Um, and to be this sensitive, you know, person always wanting to heal and uplift lives, to not care was such a conflict, and that came up just now for me in my head, talking with my self-sabotager.
Hmm.
It said what happened, and it was like the disease kicked in, because I didn't even start really doing any drugs till my 20s.
Oh, interesting.
And so, I mean, I had tried one or two things and was like, I was such a like a straight lace. I was athletic, and uh, and then like that was when the disease kicked in. Like immediately when I started drinking, I was always going for it.
Yeah.
I didn't drink all the time. I just drank in excess when I was there, and yeah, so that came up, like the disease. The disease is it. Um, I would say enabled the self sabotager. Like it.
Yeah. I mean, in IFS terms, that part was trying to protect you because, at 20, you couldn't process, you didn't have the tools or the ability to process everything that was happening. And so addiction is a way of distracting you from that pain. And that's really the purpose of addiction is distraction.
Yeah,
Right. So then there again, there's a part of you trying to protect you from enduring pain that you couldn't resolve.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
And when we can't resolve it in ourselves, we often resort to trying to solve it in others.
Okay, I see that.
I'm a helper too, is how I know this.
Yeah,
Right. It's like
sure.
yeah. And it's all circles back to, we blame ourselves for our own pain. And so that's where the forgiveness piece comes in. And it's looking at that 20-year-old self and forgiving them for not having the skills. Like, how could they?
Yeah,
It's not, it's, we judge ourselves for not being able to solve problems that we weren't ever supposed to solve. You would never expect a child to deal with the sort of pain that was inflicted upon you. It's not your fault, right? And we develop things like disease to compensate, but even the disease is trying to protect you
yeah, true,
from pain.
true.
So,
Yeah, and I've done the work to come to terms with the disease, you know.
which is interesting, and I'm not fully. It's interesting how like I've thought of it as a disease too, right? But in a way, that's externalizing and alienating a part of ourselves,
Yeah,
right? And what I know about wholeness is like recovery is about recovering our whole self, the good parts and the bad parts,
yeah,
what we think of as bad parts. And then we come to understand, oh, even those parts are good. They were trying to protect us.
yeah, yeah,
Right. So it's not about like judging, this part labeled a disease. It's like, oh, thank you for trying to save me. We're going to do it in a way that's not destructive to all the other parts.
yeah, yeah. I totally agree with that. I calling it a disease was a way to itemize,
Yeah.
you know, to understand so much about these self-harming behaviors,
Right.
and then love it, like love
Yeah.
it. Yeah, so that's how I see it too. And
Yeah.
so, and I believe that's what the 12-step program helped me with is
Good.
I I I don't mind calling myself an addict, and saying I have a disease because that helped
Yeah.
me process what my behaviors.
It's a way to make sense of what feels
Yeah,
insane.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Because insanity, that's hey, that's my realm.
It was.
What? Exactly.
It was. But you have like this, I feel like recovery not only is recovering our whole self, but coming to grips with the realization of who our authentic self really is, right? And which is an identity that emerges in recovery so that you become who you really were all along.
Yeah,
And we learn to validate all of the parts that were trying to help us this whole time, even if it was, destructive on a multitude of levels, I'm sure.
yeah. I mean, I just with what we were just doing, I never saw the self-sabotager as someone I should love.
Yeah.
Love.
I had a sponsor who told me she like laid down the gauntlet. She asked me, "Can you love your unlovable parts?" And I was like, "Of course not. They're unlovable."
Yeah,
Right. But with the new context or new information of, oh, these unlovable parts were actually trying to help me this whole time, then I can have compassion to those parts. And then the things that we do, like seeking external validation and money, things like that, those needs become lessened. Like the need softens and we can start allowing and receiving from a different place. And the work is the work of a law, the law of attraction is about um in a funny way, it's like practicing delusional thinking, right?
yeah,
But we practice delusional thinking anyway.
right.
We spend more time in fear, fearing things that never happen.
Yeah,
So why not take 15 minutes every morning and think about the end result of the things that you say you want, right? And just acting as if they've already happened,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like the
yeah.
music touches who it's supposed to, the
Right.
book helps the people it's supposed to, and like your job is done.
So that's so nice to hear that.
Yeah. And then you can just spend a few minutes feeling the feelings as if they already happened. And then you can start taking action from that place of peace and joy. If you are whole and have everything you've always wanted, all the validation, that you give to yourself, internal validation, you allow yourself the freedom to make choices without restriction and allow yourself to, feel the joy that you feel like on the boat in nature in Alaska, the feeling of expansiveness. Like you have those experiences.
Yeah.
And so, really, the work is to spend a few minutes every day in positive, delusional thinking and just remembering the joy. Because at the end of the day, when people say whatever it is that they want, it's really the feelings that they think it'll bring them that brings the true joy. There's no need to put anything between us and the feeling that we want.
Good.
So,
I A component that's helped me have that is faith.
yeah.
And faith.
Hmm.
Um, when I have faith and I'm trusting that faith, I'm not worried about wealth or fame.
Yeah.
I'm realizing you know, what I'm being given is good enough, and I don't have that fear. But it wanes. It just wanes at
Of
times.
course. Yeah. And that's the practice is
Yeah.
spending a few minutes every day just connecting with the internal compass. That's in my mind, that's where God lives. It's your internal compass, and God leads us through joy, through creativity, and you're a creative person.
Um, I do. I do totally remember the Julie Cameron where that stayed with me was the things you fear the most you attract, and I was like, oh, and I mean, that's work in itself. And then what was the opposite of that? It's like the things
Well,
you,
it's love. It's love is the opposite of fear.
yeah,
That's like a Course in Miracles teaching that at the end of the day, there's only two feelings. It's either love or fear, and we get to align with love. Let God do his job and align with the feelings of love. And what you think about, you bring about, right? Like
yeah,
that's the law of attraction is we spend time, we surrender the fears and choose the thoughts and feelings that we want to feel. And what we focus on expands. That's our work. It's to just let go and forgive ourselves for the negativity,
yeah. Well,
allow and receive.
yeah. I I I want to say this right now, so I will. Uh, thank you, thank you for I I I think both of us had no idea what was gonna, partake, what was going to occur.
Yeah.
Uh, but thank you because um, like I've been stuck in this place for about 6 weeks now.
Mm,
It's like what is going to help me, and I'm going to say God brought us together,
100%.
to have this conversation. So now I have some tools to move forward because I didn't know what tools to reach for because this is recurred so many times, and it's like I must not have the tool for this. I guess I've
Yeah.
definitely learned, over time and in recovery to be kinder to myself.
Yeah.
Put down the bat was like the one thing my second sponsor said more than any other term. But
It's
because
important to know why, though, right? You can't hate yourself well.
yeah,
You can't
yeah,
hate parts of you. When we validate and acknowledge that they were trying to help us all along, it changes everything.
yeah. I'm just going to tell you real quick. My brain is zinging, um, and just my belief system is that only happens when you know I'll jump back and forth. I'm not a doctor. I'll use science, what I pick up, the tidbits, the particles. It is that only happens when a new neural pathway is started. Like I
Nice.
feel a zing inside my brain. Anyway, that's my belief
That's
system.
awesome. That's awesome. I mean, I really, and listen, I appreciate your courage and thank you. I really do. It was so interesting. I've never done in 300 plus 330 interviews. I've never been like, oh my God, let's talk right now.
Yeah, and that was a ride for a minute there. I was like,
Yeah.
No, I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid. You know, I'm willing to be helped. You know, how can I help others if I'm not willing to, to be helped? Uh, but I was scared a little bit.
Yeah,
You
you're
know,
so much courage. I really appreciate your courage, your willingness to be transparent. I think that that creativity of and that desire to help others is a gift, that sensitive part of you that was able to come forward and be creative and have courage. I do think that helps others to see like how this actually works.
I do too. That's
Yeah.
the reason behind the willingness of the guinea pigness.
Yeah, that was awesome. Well,
Oh,
listen, thank you so much for playing along. And I'm definitely going to leave links to your book. And you just send me links to anything that you'd like me to include in the show notes. I would love to
oh,
help,
yeah.
promote your music and the work that you do, the sound healing and the book. You're doing lots of things to try to help others. So just send me all the links you'd like me to include, and we'll share
Appreciate
that with everyone.
it. Yeah, thank you. I'm so grateful for this time with you. Like
Yes. Well, thank you. I appreciate it
not
too. I know
knowing
you're going
what
to
to
help a lot of
expect and
people.
not preparing ahead of time. This was great. So
Surprise.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I I mean your podcast is great. I love
Thank
all
you.
the different issues that you uh not just address but have experts talk about. And so I mean this is hopefully a successful new direction, because you're helping people.
Thank you. Thank you. I love doing this work too. So,
Yeah. Yay.
yeah. Have an amazing day. Thank you so
I
much
will.
for
I
spending
will
time
now.
with me.
Yeah.
Yay.